did a little essay in my government class, and we had to pretty much research a big topic and debate on it basically bring up a lot of analysis and talk about it in an essay format. So the first thing I was trying to think about is what would be good, what would be bad about cloning, especially humans. And the first animal to be successfully cloned was a sheep named Dolly. It was a girl sheep in 1999, and it was the first successful clone. And a strange thing about this sheep is that it took nearly 120 embryos to create her. 3 of the sheep actually became babies and came out, but they weren't really sheep. They were all deformed and just really gnarly sheep. And they had a picture of 2 of them, and I was just like, wow, I can't imagine a baby coming out like that. So a lot of things are debated when it comes to cloning. It brings a lot of science into it too. One of the biggest things would be artificial intelligence and molecular anthropology. And if you don't know what molecular anthropology, wow, that's a big word. It's the manipulation of cells to produce good traits. So if you wanted to say, I want my baby to have blue eyes, or I want my baby to have brown eyes, or I want my baby to be white, or just all these things come up. But this also brings in the matter of cloning in the government. What if you wanted to make a superhuman? What if you wanted to make just something crazy? What if you wanted to remake inspirational person like Hitler, or just something really bad? So this is why I completely, after researching it a little bit, I completely went against it. The reason for cloning and the positive side I could see from it would be harvesting body parts like organs, organ donors. But that brings me into my first big part of my essay, which was what it is to be human. And I thought this was completely inhumane because you're basically taking a petri tray and taking an embryo from a woman, because they can't make the egg. That wouldn't be part of the cloning process, one of the successful cloning processes. And they would pretty much inject whatever the cloning stuff they made into the embryo, and it would be a baby made out of a petri dish, and then that baby would eventually come out and grow up, and they'd make an artificial sac just like a woman would have, and it would grow up into a human. The baby wouldn't have parents, it wouldn't have the learning experiences of life, and it just wouldn't have any nourishment as a human being. And I think that's just completely inhumane, because imagine being born into the world, experimented on, not knowing anything, with the same features me and you have. You can feel pain, you can feel empathy, and you're just confused. You're an animal. So that's really where I draw the line with it. So the world so far has deemed cloning completely just not okay. There's some countries, most of them are, can't think of the word, I was supposed to remember that, but most of them are countries we don't like. And the article from the UN, which is pretty much the United Nations, it's Article 2505, which is part of the UN's law, and they basically said that cloning is not allowed, whether it's an animal or a human. So I'm happy that's there, because bad things can come from it. So my next thing I'm going to go to is why it's inhumane. One of the bigger factors that I was reading in another article by, it was like NBC and the UN article, but they said a new race of humans will be born. And this may not be a big deal to you, but it's kind of crazy to think about if clones were to happen, an entire new species of humans would be created. And yeah, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but imagine a super race of humans. Right? It would be iRobot. You guys have seen that movie. They would basically be smarter, they could run faster, have better techniques, and we don't really want to do that to the people we have now, like on planet Earth. It would just kind of bring a lot of bad stuff, bad science into what nature is. So The biggest thing I really brought up in my article, because it's a big subject for millennials, is that the Earth is already overpopulated. So in the 1950s, there was 5 billion people on the planet. Right now, there's 7.8 billion people currently. By 2050, there will be over 13 billion people on planet Earth. This planet is supposed to sustain an 8 billion people cap. So I think overpopulation and natural resources is going to be one of our biggest problems for our generation, and cloning will just further that problem. People in the 1950s, their average lifespan was 65 to 70 years old. Right now, the average lifespan is 75 to 80 years old. In 2050, the average lifespan for a human being will be 80 to 85 years old. So there's just going to be it's going to get worse, progressively worse. And if we continue to have these things like limiting us, then it's going to just be really bad. So another thing that I really wanted to bring up too is we wanted the common people, the people like that aren't the 1%, won't really be benefiting from this problem either. It'll be the rich people. So like bringing clones into this world isn't going to really help anyone except powerful rich people. So for us, like if it does come up in our generation or in the years we're all alive, I don't think it's going to be a really good thing. So to wrap it up real quick, I covered why it defies the natural process of birth. It opens up scary sciences that will lead to very bad things. The overpopulation of this planet will continue to get worse and worse. And regardless of religion, it defies what is natural on this planet.